right, we're back on the 64 today, and we're gonna finish up brake lines today. I have a plan, we'll see how it goes. So the issue that we're gonna have, which is the issue the people last owned the car had, is we need to make a brake line that goes from the proportioning valve all the way up here, goes all the way down this way. So the previous owners used copper, which is really easy to bend, but they also use those compression fittings, which is a big no-no. So what I have is, well, this is what I have. I have two of the same lines. So this is a front to back line for a 75 to 82, and I have a second one right here. So obviously the proportioning valve on a 75 to 82 is actually right here. But we still, even if I move the proportioning valve here, we still have the same problem, is where you can't get this bend that goes up over the kick up to here, through here, and also through there. It's much easier to do with the body off the frame. We're not going to do that, so I have a workaround. So these little $5 fittings from O'Reilly's, they're 1/4 inch inverted flare unions. So what these do is they basically, this isn't a 1/4 inch line, but same kind of deal. You have two fittings that will be connecting between two lines. Funny enough, they're actually the same as, you know, junction block. So they do the exact same thing, and the best part is that they're safe. So we have two of these, and my plan is to use both of them. So here is what you really don't ever want to see on a brake system. These things called compression fittings. Basically, the flare is compressed onto the line. It's not actually part of the line. And because of that, they're not as strong as like a normal flare. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one here, and I'm going to have another one, I think, right around here. So I'll make one line, put a flare in it, make a second line to here, flare it on both ends, and then the third one over here. So technically, yes, it's not factory, but with the clips and the bolts that I have, plus the correct unions, it'll be safer. And it'll be better than those copper lines. So let's get started and see what we come up with. All right, so we're working on piece number 1 of 3. This is going to be the kick up over the back of the frame. Don't forget your fitting before you do the brake flare. But basically, the way you do it is that sets your depth. Then we're doing 1/4 inch line. Then you do operation 1. Push that all the way in, and then operation 2 for the double flare. And then when you're done, it should look just like that. All right, let's see what it looks like. There it is. There's the flare. Does it look like this end? Yep, I think they're about the same. So now we have piece 1 of 3. All right, it's been a couple hours, but I'm done. I'm gonna show it to you guys. And remember, this is temporary. Eventually I'll get a frame for this car, but I'm actually pretty proud of it. So we'll start up here. Right here we have the new line from the proportioning valve to the first union. And then I had a bunch of bolts and clamps from C3s that I had in a drawer. And that's a factory hole right there. We have the line going between the body and the frame up over the transmission cross member, coming back down. Our second union right here with the clamp and a clamp. And we have the line coming up over here, over the kick up to this distribution block from a C3, and then this new factory line with 1, 2, and 3 clamps holding it in. So this was easy because this was pretty much pre-bent. The holes were already there. The bolts just threaded right in, not a problem. This one, a little more difficult, but you know what? We made it happen, we got it done. This is a lot safer than the compression fittings. This is, again, this is the same as that. There's no difference between them. So that is, I'll feel much better about getting good brake pedal with a line like that. I wasn't going to put new rotors on this car because these brakes are kind of a temporary thing, but I already had them, and these ones, these original ones, are very pitted, and the front one, the inside, the ribs on the inside are really rusty. But you know, I went to clean them, I went to sand them, and you see these pits, and I'm just like, I know eventually all the front and rear suspension are coming out, but I was like, I'm here, let's do it. So we'll put these rotors I got from Lone Star on. Maybe we'll use them again, maybe we won't. But I do want to remind everybody that there are a difference between the front and the back. So usually on a quality set of rotors, you can tell the backs have this extra hole to adjust the parking brake, and the fronts do not. But if you get 4 rotors and they're all the same, then the measurement you need to do is from the back of the rotor mating surface to this stopping surface on the top, and this one is a little bit deeper because it's a rear rotor, so there are differences front and back. I have a video that I've made on this in the past, so go watch that, and then now you know. So we'll get these on, we'll get the calipers on, and we'll get to bleeding. I figured out the reason why there was no brake fluid leaking out of the rear calipers. Because there was no brake fluid in the rear of the master. Look at that. Interesting. Now this is a disc car, which is not original to it. And the master, to me, is that a disc drum master or disc master? I don't know. But it needs to go. 9 times out of 10, I don't replace these brake rotors for 2 reasons. One, they're almost never worn out, and they're almost never damaged. So you'll see on newer cars, you know, ones with grooves in them, ones with scratches in them, ones that aren't thick enough. These things are like indestructible. The only way they're pretty much need to be replaced is if they're rusty. So this one, like the rest of the car, is borderline. So we're gonna just put on new reproduction brake rotors onto it. Eventually, all of this front suspension will be replaced with different stuff, so I'm not going to bother to machine these brake rotors so that they don't wobble, that kind of thing. But to get this one off, we have to take the rivets out of it. So I've already done a few of them, but I'm going to show you basically how I like to do it. So basically, buy yourself a brand new 1/2-inch drill bit, because by the time you're done with all 20 of these rivets, the drill bit's going to be trash. Buy a brand new one, a really nice one, save yourself some time. You're going to drill all the way down until you can start seeing basically where the head of the rivet ends and the shank of the rivet begins. You can kind of see it right there. And then you're going to take your air chisel, hopefully you have one, this is how I do it, and then just buzz the rivet in. And then that way, the head of the rivet will fall off, and you rinse and repeat. Almost there. So headphone users, unplug your headphones. That just pops it in, and you see the head of the rivet comes out. Just like that. This one, I don't know if we're there yet, we'll see. There we go, look at that. All right, now this rivet, or this rotor, eventually should come out. So you can see this front suspension is pretty crusty. Again, it'll be replaced. It's these inside of these rivets on these rotors. They're a little thin. You can see right here on the ridges. Maybe a little better on the inside. They're a little thin in the middle, so we're just gonna scrap these. Come on. Well, we got grease in there. Alright, remember to always clean the brake rotors before you put them on. When they're shipped, they come with a thin coat of oil just to prevent flash rusting. Let's see. Get that off, and you're ready to go. One thing you can do to make the caliper install just a little easier, you can take a lug nut or two, run them down. That way, since there's no rivets, the rotor will sit flush. Also, when the wheel is put on, this rotor will sit like this on the hub, and you won't have to worry about anything. There you go. Alright, let's get a caliper. So I saw a Facebook post the other day. A guy wanted to know where he could buy calipers that didn't have springs behind the little plungers. Hate to say it, they all have springs. That's the way these brakes work. So in order to get this on, you have to compress the springs and then thread the hose in between the spindle and the spring, and then you put the caliper on just like that. It's really the only way to do it. Remember, you put the hoses on first so that they're not kinked once you install them. Next, we're going to do bolt, and then we're going to put in the brake hose, and we should be ready to go. Alright, moving on to the back wheel. I had a surprise when I took that rotor off. There's no parking brake hardware in here. Great. But since this is a manual transmission car, they kind of have to be there. And there's no way your parking brake will ever work with no shoes. The other side has them, this side does not. Luckily, I was able to pull out my parking brake hardware bin, and I found stuff that's good enough. So all the springs, all the shoes, the adjuster, all that stuff. If you spy right there, I have a set of rebuilt trailing arms with brand new parking brakes that will eventually go in this car. But here's the thing, I can't do the brakes without, you know, just covering this. It won't take too long, but we'll get this parking brake stuff in, and then we'll go back to our regular scheduled programming of the actual brakes. Alright, rear caliper, very similar to the front. The only difference on this one is there's a rear sway bar that matters. Most Corvettes that you work on won't have these. These are kind of homemade. They're kind of crappy. They need to go out of the way so that you're able to put the line on it. Yes, eventually I will replace those bushings. Boom. So this is the line I was talking about. you really can't get to where it needs to go without this piece moved out of the way. First, we got to put the cap. Next, your lines are pretty easy. You have one that goes in the back right here. Do that one first because it's a lot harder to get that one started. And then once you get that one started by hand, at least 3 or 4 threads, then you can move on to this one. Again, we've replaced this rubber line right here. So that's new and it pops up into here. Again, get the metal line started before you tighten it all down with the clip. All right, we have the old and crusty ones out and the new ones ready to go in. I'll tell you what, I feel like most cars, as they get newer, they advance and they become better. This is a much better brake booster setup than a C3. This took me 5 minutes tops, just because I'd never done one before and I wasn't sure how it went in, but easily accessible under the dash, easily accessible on the firewall. Pin came right out, easy peasy. It's amazing how much more work a C3 booster is to get out, especially with a manual shift car. If you know, you know. Alright guys, well that's it for the brakes on this 64. I'm gonna bleed them, but I'm gonna wait to show you guys that in another video when I do my big brake video that I've been wanting to do for years. So that one, I'll show you how I bleed them using the motive pressure bleeder. If you know, you know, that's the best way to bleed brakes. So thank you guys for watching the video on this 64, and we'll see you guys next time.